Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Bangladesh is hopeful of a brighter future as Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus arrives in Dhaka to lead an interim government. India pushes for safety of minorities and early restoration of law and order. India's President Draupadi Murmu holds bilateral talks with New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister and Governor-General to boost bilateral ties. Wellington formally joins the International Solar Alliance. 2 men jailed for 32 months for violent disorder in UK's anti-Muslim riots. 6,000 specialist police officers on guard. And India's Neeraj Chopra aims for gold in men's javelin throw today, while Indian hockey team plays for bronze. Wrestler Vinesh Phogat announces retirement. Up first, news from Bangladesh. Nobel Peace Laureate Muhammad Yunus returned home to a strife-torn country on Thursday to lead a new interim government after weeks of tumultuous student protests forced Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to resign and leave the country. The South Asian nation's only Nobel laureate and a harsh critic of Sheikh Hasina, Yunus, 84, arrived in Dhaka following medical treatment in Paris after protesters backed him for the role in a government tasked with holding elections for a new leader. Yunus is set to be sworn in as chief of a team of advisors at 14:30 GMT at the official residence of President Mohammad Shahabuddin. Earlier, Bangladesh's military chief, General Wakar-uz-Zaman, in a televised address confirmed that Muhammad Yunus will take oath at a ceremony on Thursday. He said, "The size of the government has not been finalized yet. Initially, some 15 individuals may take oath as the advisors of the interim government. However, 1 or 2 more individuals may be added," he said. General Wakar hoped that the situation in Bangladesh will be normal within 3 to 4 days. He said those who were involved in the crimes committed over the past few days will not be spared and legal action would be taken against them. India is keeping a close watch on the situation in Bangladesh. Director General of Border Security Force, Daljit Singh Chaudhary, on Wednesday reviewed the security apparatus and operational preparedness of the paramilitary force along the Bangladesh border in Agartala. Director General of Tripura Police and DG Intelligence also attended the review meeting. Tripura shares an 856-kilometer long border with Bangladesh. BSF DG applauded these tireless efforts of the state forces in safeguarding the border by preventing any kind of infiltration and trans-border crimes. Meanwhile, on the intervening night of 6th and 7th August, the BSF, in a joint operation with Tripura Police, apprehended 11 Bangladeshi nationals who had crossed over to the Indian side illegally. And on to Indian President Draupadi Murmu's New Zealand visit. After concluding a successful visit to Fiji, Indian President Draupadi Murmu is in New Zealand on the second leg of a 3-nation tour. On her arrival in Wellington on Thursday, President Murmu was accorded a traditional welcome in line with Maori traditions at Wellington. She was invited for the Hongi tradition, which includes the clasping of hands. She also received the Royal Guard of Honour by a tri-service contingent of 100 New Zealand soldiers. President Murmu attended New Zealand International Education Conference in Wellington and was presented with a memento that depicts the Maori art. Addressing the conference, President highlighted that India has made notable progress in the fields of education, and exchanges with New Zealand will further boost ties between the two countries.
I am confident that the discussions and exchanges of this conference will pave the way for even stronger education ties. heartfelt gratitude to Education New Zealand and to the Government of New Zealand for honoring India in such a special way. Let us continue to work together to build bridges of knowledge and understanding and for creating world leaders through our educational collaboration.
President Murmu held a meeting with Governor-General Dame Cindy Cairo of New Zealand as well. Both leaders hailed the warm and friendly relationship between the two countries and discussed various aspects of bilateral ties and ways to unlock the potential of India-New Zealand partnership. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Winston Peters of New Zealand called on President Draupadi Murmu in Wellington. They held discussions on strengthening bilateral cooperation and addressing global challenges. President Draupadi Murmu on Thursday paid floral tributes to a statue of Mahatma Gandhi at Wellington railway station. Mahatma Gandhi's legacy is a guiding light for humankind. Mahatma Gandhi's timeless teachings continue to inspire us all. The President of India also then visited the Pukayo National War Memorial in Wellington and laid a wreath to pay tribute to the martyred soldiers. Addressing media about India's President Draupadi Murmu's New Zealand visit, Secretary East in the Ministry of External Affairs, Jaideep Majumdar, said that the President was accorded a ceremonial welcome and guard of honour. He also said that she held bilateral talks with New Zealand's Governor-General.
Honourable Rashtrapati Ji was accorded a warm, traditional Maori ceremonial welcome on her arrival and was received by New Zealand's Governor-General, the Right Honourable Dame Cindy Cairo. She was accorded a royal salute and a guard of honour. She had bilateral discussions with the Governor-General on the range of subjects. Both leaders had a very warm meeting and carried forward their conversation over lunch. They discussed also about how both India and New Zealand have so many similarities between the two as mature democracies that believe in the rule of law and in multilateralism, and our common interest in the development and climate resilience of the countries of the Pacific.
On the President's meeting with New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, the Secretary East, Ministry of External Affairs, said that the leaders discussed issues related to trade, culture, sports, defence and more.
The other meeting today morning was that Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of New Zealand, His Excellency Mr. Winston Peters, paid a courtesy call on Rashtrapati Ji. The Honourable Minister has been to India recently in March. During the discussions, they discussed several issues relating to trade, culture, sports, defence, and exploring cooperation in traditional medicine.
The President of India also announced a customs bilateral agreement. New Zealand has ratified the International Solar Alliance and joined it as a new country. Moving on, stressing that competition and collaboration is required in the defence sector, Chief of Defence Staff of the Indian Armed Forces, Uneill Chauhan, has said that there is a need to diversify India's stockpiles and manufacturing capability of ammunitions. The CDS was addressing a conference on military ammunition, Make in India, Make for the World in New Delhi on Thursday.
Diversification of our vendor base amongst defence PSUs and the private sector for manufacturing even the same kind of ammunition. It would mean a policy that encourages competition as well as collaboration at the same time. A different kind of a civil-military fusion would have to be brought about in defence manufacturing, including ammunition. Another area where we need to focus is on the latest development and design of ammunitions. The family of ammunition has evolved over a period of time from the era of dumb bombs and ammunition to precision-guided, smart ammunition, loiter ammunition. We need to diversify, we need to look at better ammunition. We need to frame GSQRs very intelligently, so we don't have frame GSQRs for older variety of ammunitions.
The Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 was introduced in the lower house of Indian Parliament today. India's Minority Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju moved the bill to further amend the Waqf Act 1995. The bill seeks to address issues related to the powers and functioning of the state Waqf boards. as well as registration and survey of Waqf properties. The Bharatiya Janata Party has asserted that the legislation has been brought to provide justice to the minorities who have been harassed, as there were several complaints of poor minorities that their properties were being taken away by the Waqf boards.
Sir, with your permission, I rise to move for leave to introduce the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024.
The Reserve Bank of India-led Monetary Policy Committee on Thursday decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 6.5% for the 9th time in a row. Reserve Bank of India's Governor Shaktikant Das, while announcing the decisions of the bi-monthly meet, said that the decision was taken with a majority of 4:2 by the MPC.
It decided by a majority of 4:2 members to keep the policy repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. Consequently, the standing deposit facility rate remains at 6.25% and the marginal standing facility rate and the bank rate at 6.75%. The MPC also decided by a majority of 4 out of 6 members to remain focused on withdrawal of accommodation to ensure that inflation progressively aligns to the target while supporting growth.
The Reserve Bank of India's governor added that inflation and growth are evolving in a balanced manner in the country, and he said that fiscal year 2024-25 GDP growth projection has been retained at 7.2%.
Real GDP growth for 2024-25, that is for the current year, is projected at 7.2%, with Q1 at 7.1%, Q2 at 7.2%, Q3 at 7.3%, and Q4 at 7.2%.
You're watching DD India Live, still to come on this edition. US Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz sell their vision to voters in Michigan and Wisconsin. In one of the largest incursions into Russian territory, Ukraine enters into the southern border of Russia, triggering fierce clashes.
The one common theme between all major cities across the world is hope and the promise of new opportunities and possibilities that gravitates people towards them.
The reason why we advocate green transformations is because you can retain the building and you can actually modify.
There's a lot that happens when you extract sand beyond sustainable limits. It's going to change your course of your river, it's going to widen the channel, it's going to damage, and we are paying a big price.
We have 2 water reservoirs on 84 acres of land. During periods when the river water is non-saline, we store water in these reservoirs. Throughout the year, we distribute this water to residents.
Tiny houses are in vogue. Less is more. Many also assume tiny homes are more eco-friendly.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Taneja. On to London now, where thousands of anti-racism protesters gathered to challenge the expected far-right groups targeting migrants after the killing of 3 girls in a knife attack in Southport. This triggered a wave of false messaging that wrongly identified the suspected killer as an Islamist migrant. Police have launched raids in London to catch these riot suspects. London's Metropolitan Police Chief Mark Rowley accompanied a group of officers on a Thursday morning raid in Sutton. 2 men were jailed for 32 months for violent disorder in UK's anti-Muslim riots, and UK Met Police Chief also stated that his forces had been working in conjunction with the government to keep communities safe.
Clearly, we've been working with government. We've had several COBRA meetings this week. So as we as police chiefs across the country have been working together, putting these big operations in place to protect communities, We've been briefing government on that, and they've been putting in plans for other parts of government, local authorities to support us and support communities.
Meanwhile, the First Minister of Northern Ireland, Michelle ONeill, condemned the violent disorder and said it is important for us to come together with one voice to say no to racism.
Recent events, it's important that we as political leaders come together with one voice to say no to racism, and ultimately that's what this is about. So today we're going to have a meeting of the executive. All parties will be represented. We'll have the Chief Constable also in attendance. We'll also do a press conference directly afterwards. But for me, this is about that strongest of political voice to say no to racism, no to the violence, no to the intimidation of our local community here, and yes to an inclusive society, and that these people that are involved in violent activity do not speak for us, never have and never will.
And to tell us more about the widespread anti-immigrant protests and now the counter-anti-racist protests in London, DD India's Stuart Smith has more.
It's another warning for any potential rioters and an attempt at reassurance from the Prime Minister Keir Starmer, as he's expected to host another emergency meeting on Thursday with not full confidence that this is all over. The Prime Minister said that anybody involving themselves in disorder, whatever they claim as their motive, will feel the full force of the law. And he said it's important, he feels, to repeat that message because at this time it's important to give the necessary reassurances to the communities who were very anxious about the situation on Wednesday and continue to be concerned. The Policing Minister, Diana Johnson, repeated that the police will come for those who have already participated in violence and those who are thinking of doing that again, with some concern that football fixtures at the weekend could provide another catalyst for these groups to gather and potentially, in some towns or cities in the UK, lead to rioting again. Now, there was an update on these prison sentences that are believed to have made some difference to the number of people participating in disorder. On Wednesday, we had the first prison sentences from the Southport riots. Now, on Thursday, Liverpool Crown Court has sentenced 2 more to jail, both receiving 3 years in prison for their role in the disorder.
And on to the US presidential race now. Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz have spent their first full day campaigning. The pair visited Michigan and Wisconsin, the same states as Republican Donald Trump's running mate J.D. Vance, as both campaigns try to sell their vision to voters. DD India's Nick Harper reports.
The Midwest was in focus on Wednesday, with dueling Democrat and Republican rallies taking place. Following Tuesday evening's event in Philadelphia, Kamala Harris was out on the campaign trail with her vice presidential pick, Tim Walz. They visited the city of Eau Claire in Wisconsin, followed by the suburbs of Detroit in the state of Michigan. The Democratic Party appears to have embraced Harris's pick of Walz, with fundraising soaring to around $20 million in the 24 hours since her announcement. Republican J.D. Vance visited the same places on Wednesday, just in reverse, Michigan first and then Wisconsin. Donald Trump was not on the campaign trail on Wednesday, but did phone in to Fox News, during which he described Harris as a nasty person and called Walz a communist. Immigration is in the spotlight for both campaigns. The Trump-Vance ticket is trying to portray the Biden administration as weak on immigration as a result of the millions of illegal immigrants who've entered the US in the last few years.
She has been the border czar for 3.5 years, and Americans have suffered because of it. I know this community's been affected by it. I know I've seen the consequences of it personally, but the fentanyl that the Mexican drug cartels are bringing into our country, it is killing Americans by the bushels, and it is unnecessary. It is happening because of failed public policy.
Trump is pledging mass deportations if re-elected. Harris, though, is promising to bring back the border security bill that Donald Trump scrapped while president.
Now, more than 20 states in our country have a Trump abortion ban, many with no exceptions even for rape and incest. And if he wins, we all know he will sign a national abortion ban to outlaw abortion in every state, even in Wisconsin. But we are not going to let that happen because we trust women. And when I am President of the United States and when Congress passes a bill to restore the protections of Roe v. Wade, I will sign it into law.
Meanwhile, new polling shows Harris has received a boost in support from black voters across the country, while Trump has picked up more white voters. Tropical Storm Debbie has scuppered plans for both the Trump and Harris campaigns to hold events in North Carolina later on Thursday. Those have been cancelled due to extreme weather and torrential rain. In Washington, I'm Nick Harper, reporting for DD India.
And in one of the largest incursions into Russian territory since the Russia-Ukraine conflict began, Ukraine has entered into Russia's southern border near a major natural gas transmission hub. In retaliation, Russia said on Wednesday that it was fighting intense battles against Ukrainian forces. The acting governor of Kursk region, Alexei Smirnov, said that he had introduced a state of emergency in the border region. Regional officials said that meant restricting access to specific areas. Russia's National Guard said that it had beefed up security around the nearby Kursk National Power Station and its 4 reactors. On to Asia now. As part of Plant for Mother campaign launched by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Speaker of Sri Lankan Parliament Mahinda Yapa Abhayawardene and High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka Santosh Jha jointly inaugurated the Sri Lanka-India Friendship Arch at the National Sandalwood Garden. Sri Lankan Minister Prasanna Ranatunga, office bearers of Sri Lanka's India Parliamentary Friendship Association and senior officials participated by planting Murutta saplings, symbolizing shared commitment to a greener future.
This is actually a part of Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam campaign started by the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, on the World Environmental Day this year. Under this program, we intend to plant 1.4 billion trees in India by March 2025. And around the world, we are requesting our friends to also join us in this campaign for climate and for sustainable development.
And next, all the sporting action from Paris Olympics 2024. So today is going to be a special day for India as Tokyo Olympics gold medalist Neeraj Chopra will compete in the men's javelin throw final. Chopra aims to make history at Paris Olympics. If he secures a gold medal or any medal, he'll become one of the most decorated Indians in individual Olympic sports. Chopra stormed into the men's javelin throw final after he produced an 89.34 meters throw on his very first attempt to breach the direct qualification standard of 84 meters. In addition to Chopra, there are high hopes from Indian men's hockey team. They take on Spain in the bronze medal playoff today. The Indian team succumbed to a defeat on Wednesday in the semi-final of the Paris 2024 Olympics against Germany in a thrilling encounter by 2-3. The team missed out on a chance to ensure at least silver for the Indian team, and they will now play the bronze medal match against Spain. India's ace wrestler Vinesh Phogat announced her retirement from sports a day after she was disqualified from the Paris Olympics. Phogat was on the cusp of a gold medal in the women's 50 kg freestyle wrestling event, but she was disqualified after exceeding her weight by just 100 grams during the morning weigh-in on Wednesday. Vinesh even lodged a protest at the Court of Arbitration for Sport challenging her disqualification. Vinesh, in a post on social media, said that wrestling won the final match against her and she lost, breaking all her courage. Having made her professional debut in 2001, the year 2024 was the last that saw her compete as a professional wrestler. An iconic career nonetheless for Vinesh Phogat. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at DD India Live. And you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.